Hey everyone, this is Jessica Stallbaum, and we are here doing a little Flourish after the conference. We are doing some Flourish podcasts that are going along with our Flourish groups. So this is week 2 of Flourish groups. We hope that you guys are so enjoying your time. And if you did not get in a Flourish group, we just wanted to record this as a way for us to continue some content that we really wanted to put into the conference, but just really didn't have time. And so we are continuing the conversation, Flourish after the conference. And if you are hearing this after Flourish or you don't know what Flourish is, this is just some content from myself, Jessica Stallbaum, and then I have a guest, and it's Angela Cook. Hey, Angela.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
So glad to have you here. We are going to talk about friendship this week.
That's right.
And my original title for this was Friendship Under Fire. Dun, dun, dun. But we're actually going to rename it and call it How to Flourish in Friendship.
That's right.
Which I love. So, and I love alliteration, and so do you.
That's right.
So that's great. Friendship, fire, flourish, friendship. So I'm going to start off by introducing Angela with a little bio I wrote about her. So this is Angela Cook. She is, what's her middle name, Marie?
Marie.
This is Angela Marie Cook. She is 43 years old, and she was born in Port Huron, Michigan. She has been married to Mark Cook for 18 years, and she has 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl, ages 8 to 14, right? And she has been homeschooling them from the beginning. She went to Rockledge High and lived in Brevard County most of her life until her husband got a job in Tennessee about 4 years ago. While they lived in Knoxville, she and her husband became very involved with the church and actually both got ordained as pastors. So just a few months ago, they ended up moving back here, almost half a year now, 6 months?
8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
Getting up on a year.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah, because her husband got a job as a pastor at our church, where my husband is also a pastor. So now they're pastoring together, and we are working together in ministry. Crazy.
Right.
Angela is gifted in worship, sings on our worship team when she can, but she's also our Connect director and Freedom Groups admin at the church. And some fun facts. Before she became a mom, she was a teacher at Cocoa Beach Junior Senior High and was named Teacher of the Year, which I know is a huge accomplishment. And they make you jump through a lot of hoops to get that Teacher of the Year title. My dad had it one time, and it was like, is this really worth all that work?
You have to write a lot.
Yes, it's crazy. It's like not just handing you an award. It's like you got to earn it.
You have to prove yourself.
Yes. So we know she did it. And she has written a whole book of devotions for moms that she will publish one day. Right.
Yeah, that's so prophetic and
I know.
Just speaking a word of life over me.
I am.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. My pleasure. So that's you.
Yes. And Jessica Stallbaum, she is 33 years old. 34. That's right. Sorry. We're 10 years apart. Nine years and like
couple months.
1 month or something like that. She was born in South Point, Michigan, which is just about 2 hours from
Southfield, but whatever.
Southfield.
Let's just say Detroit.
You know, I had notes and now I don't.
Oh no, because they were so good.
I know, and I printed up the wrong notes. I'm so sorry.
Just make things up.
So yeah, right. So Southfield,
Yeah.
Michigan, which is not very far from Port Huron, Michigan.
I know.
And I'm pretty sure I still lived in Michigan when you were born.
Yeah. 83.
Yep, I still lived in Michigan. So yeah, we were a couple hours away.
Yep.
She is the wife of Matt Stallbaum, Pastor Matt here at East Coast Christian Center. She has 3 amazing children. Also, she homeschools and has been doing so since the beginning. She has been in ministry with her husband, starting with the mezzanine several years ago.
Yeah.
Been married to Matt for about 14 years.
Yeah, 14 will be 15 this year.
Woohoo! 15 in November.
Yeah.
15 in November. November's a lot for you.
Yeah.
You have birthdays, you
Yes.
and Adeline, and your anniversary.
And Hudson.
Oh, and Hudson, that's right.
And Thanksgiving.
Oh my gosh. And then Christmas just around the
And
corner.
Veterans Day.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Keep going. Keep going. So
everything.
Jessica is we won't say founder, but she has really just taken sisterhood to another level here at East Coast Christian Center with precious Sarah Woods, her and Woods. Yes, Wood.
Say she'd kill you.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah Wood.
No S.
No, don't kill me, Sarah.
won't.
When
She
you
won't.
hear this, don't kill me.
She
Yes. Done an amazing job with that over the last few years, and I have just enjoyed watching Jessica come into the amazing ministry that I always saw in her.
Yes.
So
you always encouraged me.
always.
And Sarah Wood,
Sarah
S,
Wood.
and I are going to record a podcast also to tell about sisterhood behind the scenes, how it started, and the inception
Love
of
it.
sisterhood. So that's going to be fun too.
Awesome.
So stay tuned.
Stay
All right. Yeah.
tuned.
So you forgot to mention too that our social security numbers, the first 5 digits, are the same.
Yes.
You and your brother and your sister and me all have the same
Yes.
first 5 digits of our socials.
Jessica
which is
may
just
or may not
weird.
be some strange anomaly of a family member in my
Relation.
life.
I
So,
know.
so we were both born in Michigan, 10 years apart.
Right.
Yes.
So your mom must have waited a while to file for her social?
I think, yeah, and it kind
For
of
your
doesn't
socials?
surprise me. You know, I did write down some notes. Our families both moved to Florida within just a couple years of each other.
Yeah.
To Brevard County. We both attended Rockledge High School.
Yes.
And then I did say the weirdest commonality we share are the 5 digits of our social security number. And we recently discovered we are only off by less than 2,000 in the last 4.
Yes, and the digits.
That's
but
right.
I will not tell her my last
And
4
I will not
digits.
tell you either, because then that really opens up the doors for some really weird, like, identity theft issues.
Yes, exactly. Which I have, what is that called? Safe Light, LifeLock?
Yep.
Something.
And
So
yes.
don't even try. I'm
Okay,
checking.
there you go.
So this is funny. We're being very jovial together, but you're going to see that our friendship has not always been as happy and jovial as this. So we're going to get into it and we're going to share. And we just really hope our heart is for you to hear our perspectives and maybe find some of your story in this as well. And hopefully save yourself from some of the hurt that we went through. But our goal really is to be authentic and to be real and to share with you that life is not always roses, but that God, when he is involved, he just makes things beautiful.
That's
in
right.
the end. So we're going to start from the beginning of our friendship, and from your perspective, how do you remember us becoming friends?
Absolutely. The first time I met Jessica, we were at a worship and prayer night at East Coast Christian Center. They had encouraged everyone to find someone to pray with, and we ended up praying together. That night I wrote in my journal the prayer of a girl I did not know, and prayed for that story for a long time. Every time I'd see her at church, I'd lift up that request. And the neat thing about kind of hindsight 2020 is I knew that I was praying for you and knew what I was praying for.
Mm-hmm.
And so as our friendship grew, it became more real to me what I had actually been praying for.
And for me, I remember that night. I remember what I got prayed for. It was just a hurt in my life that I'd had for years and years. And I remember Pastor Dan, he just said, if you need prayer, put your hand up or whatever. And I just actually knelt in the middle of the aisle. Matt and I were not married yet.
Nope.
So I was 19. And it was just something I wanted to deal with before I got married. And so I remember someone just coming behind me and kneeling down next to me and putting their hand on my back and praying this beautiful prayer over me. And I got major breakthrough that night with that. But I never knew it was you.
Yeah.
Till years and years
I
later.
was probably about 6 or 7 months pregnant too.
Yeah, with your
so
first.
I was a big fat mama, like bending down praying for this girl.
So this was sacrifice.
Yes, I did know she was Pastor Matt's girlfriend or fiance, because you guys were engaged at that point. Because I think it was probably June or July. It was during the summertime sometime. Yeah. So anyway, so that happened, and a couple years later, years went on. I had a couple children. I was having on my second son, Andrew, and just felt like a real call to pull together some of the young moms in our church. We did have a young moms group, but it was getting so big that meeting in one living room with all these toddlers and babies was just getting very stressful. So I opened up my home. I called it Beyond Laundry.
Yep.
And Jessica was one of the people who came to that group. And we just started doing things out of that. And so we attended a retreat which featured Christine Kane, Mercy Lokaludu, and we were inspired to be women who sought after the Lord and to minister to others in our church. And so during that time, I was finding myself in the middle of friendships now with young moms, whereas before I wasn't a young mom. And I didn't have kids right away. I waited a few years before I had kids. I also got married kind of older. I was 25 when I got married.
And I got married 3 days after I turned 20 and got pregnant 3 months later.
Yes.
So we were 10 years apart in age, but in the same exact season. Which is what brought us together.
Yes. And so just I don't even know if I've shared some of this perspective even when we've talked about this before. But during that time, we were both seeking out ministries. We knew God had a call in our lives for something, and we just started praying together. And Jessica had actually sent me a note one day, just encouraging me and telling me that she was really thankful that she met me. And again, we didn't know each other really well.
Yeah.
And I looked everywhere for that card.
Aww.
I remember it was on blue paper.
Aww.
And I just looked for it because I wanted to read it and see, because
Yeah.
that was a long time ago. Andrew and Reagan are both 13.
Yeah.
So that was 13-ish years ago.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't find it.
Aw.
I couldn't find a lot of other
Sure,
things,
it
which
was
also
really great.
it was
Because I don't remember right.
Oh my gosh, it was so sweet. And it was during a time where, again, I was a lot older than most of the moms having babies at the time. I'm close to anywhere but 8 to 10 years older than everyone. And so I had a situation with one of the younger women who just kind of, she gave me a hard time about my age. And one thing Jessica never did is she will not allow me to be old.
No.
You're not old. Quit saying that. And so it just meant a lot to me. And I just feel like that's when our friendship started.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we were alike in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Again, not exactly the same age, but to me that has never mattered. I've always been kind of, well, my husband's 4 years older than me, and so all his friends kind of became my friends when we got married. And so I've just always
kind of an old soul.
I am a bit.
You're very
Thank you.
mature.
I'm even wearing like a grandma sweater right now.
Oh, cute
I'm
as can
cold.
be.
So some ways that we were alike, we've already mentioned, but we were also super different in ways that actually made us a good match. So I listed a few. So I'm not highly emotional or talkative.
Neither am I.
And she is both of those. Golly. I am more of an introvert and she's an extrovert for sure. I am more of a morning person and she's a total night owl.
Yes.
And it goes on and on. So I love that the similarities and the differences kind of balance out. So taking us to 2012 now. 6 years ago, our church was expanding, and my husband and I were asked to start a satellite, quote unquote, campus in Vieira. We started it at the, what was it called? The Rave movie theater. Yeah. So we had to build a launch team to make this happen, and Mark and Angela, thank God, felt led to join us as a huge part of that campus. Your husband took on leading the hospitality team, which is awesome, and then you took on the role of kids church director, and literally just like creating that from scratch because we had nothing. So now we're not only best friends, but we're homeschooling. And we're doing ministry together, and our lives were so intertwined. I mean, we might as well been like communal living, and that probably would have made it easier on us because we could have shared cooking and cleaning responsibilities. Yeah. But we really spent every second together. Our kids were best friends.
I mean, I did clean out your car.
You
one
did.
time.
You cleaned my car.
Speaking of which,
I hate cleaning my car. So we were very, very intertwined, and looking back, that kind of set us up for failure in a way.
Yeah.
And so just no balance in that. So we're going to talk about that now. So let's talk about the middle of the friendship relationship.
When bliss is over?
When bliss ended and trauma. No, I'm joking. I don't have a good word.
Putting in there that just you saying we're very tightly knit. But we're also both very high capacity.
Right.
We both can take on quite a bit at once, and it doesn't really affect us. And other people around us might think, oh my gosh, you're taking on too much.
Yeah.
But it's just how we're wired. Mm-hmm. And even though we have a lot of differences, we're very much alike in that way.
Yeah.
And so it is fun to surround yourself with people who do that because you get to live out your dreams because they're not going to thwart your dreams.
Yeah.
Like I told my mom today, if there's a person in the world who is my biggest cheerleader, it is Jessica Stallbaum. And I'm not looking at her while I'm saying this. She has always been my biggest cheerleader. So we started talking about how, and this is so not anything we've really talked about. During that time, yes, it started getting really tense. There was a lot of stress in our life, but I think about Paul and Barnabas in the Word, and they couldn't stay together. And I really started thinking about the reasons why, and it's probably because they were both powerhouses, and God needed them to go separate directions. Yeah. And I don't know if in the natural we could have gone in separate directions because our lives aren't just intertwined because we have commonalities. Our kids love each other.
Yes.
Like a love that is brotherly. Like they love each other so much that when, anything goes on, they want to be together. Yeah. Right now, for instance, they are in the next room.
Yes.
If you hear chatter at all in the next room, it is our
Screaming,
kids. Yes.
wrestling.
They're together. And so going into this next season, we were intertwined. We were doing life together, ministry. We were homeschooling our kids together. Every element, just like Jessica said. Stress came in, though. And my husband, long story short, lost his job. Mm-hmm. A job that he'd had for a decade and with people he loved. And there was tension in the relationships there. There was tension in our lives all over the place. Yeah. And so when a husband who has 4 kids and a wife at home loses his job, serious stress happens.
Well, he lost his purpose as well.
He did.
And so that was really tough emotionally. And I feel like, and there is a season to keep things to yourself for sure. And that's what you guys did.
Yes.
And looking back, I couldn't understand. I knew what was going on with the job. And I'm like, he'll get another job. Like, what's the big deal? Like they've lived here all their lives. There's no way they're going anywhere.
Right.
But in fact, you guys were actually looking to move.
We were.
But you were keeping it real hush-hush.
We had to.
Right.
We were praying about what God wanted to do. And his uncle had called and said, why don't you guys move up here to Tennessee? And Jessica knows, and she'd say it too. We always talked about, hey, let's go play in a church in Tennessee together.
Yeah.
Just for fun, because we both love the cold. We love
Seasons.
snow and seasons, and that's probably that little Michigan girl inside of us. And so we were keeping it quiet also because it was just so stressful and it was sad, and there was so much about it that we didn't have the answers to.
So many unknowns.
Tons. And so
so you started pulling away.
We did. I did. And in the meantime, now, again, another hindsight 2020, something everybody can learn from, because part of the reason we're doing these podcasts is to give you life experiences so you can maybe think, oh, yes, I do the same thing.
Right.
I want to watch that. I started pulling away. And in the meantime, I'm hurting the people around me because I don't know how to disconnect, and I know pretty soon I'm going to be 785 miles away.
Yeah.
And life is going to go on without me. Oh my gosh, I started putting up defenses. And the only reason I know I did that, because yes, we did end up moving to Tennessee. And when I had to move back here, I started seeing myself do it again to the people I loved there. And I realized, whoa, I can't do this. I can't be defensive. I'm moving, but it's okay. I can still hold on to those relationships. And so because of the stress, I had a family member almost die the day we were leaving. And so when I got up to Tennessee, it was very stressful, sad, all alone.
Well, let's talk about that day you were moving. So yes, super sad. You literally have your humongous moving van in the driveway.
Yes.
We were all there the night before just helping you do some last minute things. You were completely detached. And up until then, and I knew, looking back, I see why you had to be, because it was just hard. It was really hard. You were leaving your family, you were leaving your friends, your kids were leaving their friends. You know, you're going into this massive unknown.
Yes.
And just totally alone. I mean, God is going with you, yes, but it was just really hard. And so I look back and have so much empathy for you. But in the moment, I was so mad and hurt.
Yeah.
And sad. And I was like, she could care less about our friendship. And, I was having all these emotions, and the enemy was totally having a field day, I think, with both of us.
Absolutely.
But that day, you have your moving van. You're literally closing on selling your house here. Your sister-in-law is having a baby. And then what else happened that day? Is that like not enough?
Yeah.
You had to drive away.
I
that
actually
day.
had to leave. I was attending my sister-in-law's birth.
Yes.
And it was not things
as like doula, like.
Yes, as a doula. I was attending her birth, and in the middle of her birthing, I had to leave her birth, go sign the papers to close on my house.
Which is so sad, because you guys built that house.
We did. It was our home.
You brought all your kids home to
everything
that house.
was happening so quickly.
Yeah.
And then as I'm signing the paperwork, my brother called and said, and she had the baby. And I'm at the table signing these papers. I'm bawling. My best friend was our realtor from high school. My best friend from high school, Christy, was my realtor. And so I'm looking at her, and she's been in my life as long as I can remember, living here in Florida.
Yeah.
That girl's been in my life. We even have the same last name. We ended up marrying Cooks.
Yeah.
And so like there's that sweetness with her relationship. I'm looking at my friend, my sister-in-law's having a baby.
Your husband's probably just like deer in the headlights.
Oh my gosh, bless his heart. We're supposed to leave at 3. It's 1:00.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law's having the baby. Things didn't go well with her birth. And so things were not going well. And I felt like I had to get back to the hospital. Oh my gosh, so much stress.
Aww.
And yes, that big, huge moving truck was sitting in my mother's front yard waiting for us to drive away.
Yeah.
So
it's like burned into my mind.
Oh
was
my
it Penske?
gosh. It
Penske.
was.
Isn't that weird?
Yes, it was a Penske truck, because we do not get U-Hauls.
Yeah.
So went home. 6:00 that night, my sister-in-law was had to go into the operating room, and things looked like it was going better. But we got in the truck and we left at 6:00 that night.
Yeah,
and we
were driving away, not really knowing. Well, first of all, leaving your entire life, leaving your house, leaving your friends, leaving your family, and then having someone who is near and dear to your heart, your family, kind of in dire straits physically.
Yes, so literally.
So every bad thing that could happen, probably like all in one day. I mean, it's no wonder you're
the heaviness.
It was just heavy.
Well, and I remember being on the phone with you.
You were actually trying to fight with me.
I was.
Yes, because I was here, and this is why I was here, and I was trying to help in the situation at the hospital and everything. But you were upset, and you told me this
that
later,
I
which is
couldn't
how
be
you were
part of
upset that you couldn't be here.
Yeah.
Which now I understand. I'm like, that must have been so hard.
Yeah.
But you really just took it out on me as
I did.
like, and you've told me this. I'm not airing.
Yeah.
We're airing all the. We want to be on laundry and airing all the laundry.
That's right.
We want to be real though. Like you were fighting with me, and I did not have the emotional capacity to understand why then. and you didn't have that to understand why you were doing it either.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't talk about this, but you are a confronter,
Yes.
and I tend to be a retreater.
Yes.
Although, man,
We're fight and flight. I am fight. She is flight.
yes.
Yeah.
And
but
so I was trying to flee, and she's like calling me
you're not allowed to
incessantly.
flee.
Yes.
Don't flee from me.
Yes, you were calling
Yeah.
me incessantly, and I was like, should I change my number?
Well, and that's so the thing about friendship, like, because this is the goal of this podcast is we're talking about friendship. You see yourself in a friendship where someone is so different than you. And in that, it's so good to understand that about each other before you come to a conflict. Are you a fighter or a flighter? And in the time, I think Jessica's grown a ton over the years. I don't think she'd flee from a confrontation anymore.
No? Did you see me this last week?
Yeah. And even since we've been home, I've had a couple situations where I've had to find my way back.
Yeah.
Where do I belong? Who am I? Where do I fit in? When I left here, I fit in with you.
Yeah.
And we fit in. We had a certain place we fit. And so, but life went on. And so trying to find that fit, we had a moment, and you called right away. I'm going to address this right now. And it was wonderful. And I respond to that.
Yeah.
And so
I know you were like happy I confronted you.
I was so happy. I don't like, and that's so obvious
true.
about how different when it comes to that kind of stuff. You
I'm
can
like
be with a friend,
and you're like rejoicing.
Thank you, Jesus. You called me, Jessica. I've been praying you'd confront me, but no, but I do appreciate that in my friendships because I know if you aren't a confronter and you're willing to do that, you care about me.
Yeah.
And confrontational people tend not to give a lot of room for people who are not. So that's an area too in friendship where I've had to grow, and I'm still growing because I still don't quite understand. Extroverts tend to struggle with understanding how people could be introverts.
Right.
It takes forever. You're like, I don't understand.
Right.
How could you
And
possibly?
vice versa.
Yeah, but introverts aren't as vocal about it.
That's true.
Right.
Right.
And so Proverbs 27:17, which is really funny because I did say the wrong verse last time we did this.
Good.
Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. And those are perfect examples of life circumstances sharpening. That's what it means. It's not just like, oh, we sit next to each other and we're sharpening each other.
Yeah.
But I really believe with all of my heart that situation sharpened both of us in ways that it helped me when I had to move again. I had to think back on that time. And thankfully, before we moved back, you and our friendship had been mended.
Yeah.
And I was able to look at that and say, okay, I don't want to make the same mistakes this time. So I'm not going to shut down my friends because I saw myself doing that. And thankfully, the girl that I was doing that to is also a little confrontational.
In Tennessee.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she said something. She goes, I don't understand why you're you're shutting down. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like she addressed it right away. And so I was like, she's right. And my mother said the same thing. She goes, Angie, you're doing the same thing you did when you moved from here.
Yeah.
You can't shut people out. And I'm like, okay, I won't.
Yeah.
So we
Definitely learned a lot.
sharpened the countenance. It sharpened both of us.
No, and those experiences, it's definitely not like, let's sit together and go to a movie and we'll be sharpening each other
Right.
while we're next to each
Right.
other. It's going through these experiences
Yes.
is what that means. So yeah, the middle, I would say, of the relationship, definitely hard, stressful. It took a toll. We treated both, each other poorly because out of anger or hurt, whatever. But a few things that we learned during that process for me is definitely like, we could have both just burned the bridge, walked away. She moved, move on. You know what I mean? But several things helped me not do that. First of all, just God, because you moved, and then I realized that, oh my gosh, I had put all my eggs in this friendship basket with you, and I have no other close friends, and that's because I was really getting everything I needed from you, and so I really had to just. It was an eye-opening, perfect thing to happen to me in that season because my husband and I just planted a church. I need to be open to new relationships. Like that's how we're going to get this church to grow and for people to come and feel like they have a place. And so it was perfect for me. God so changed me. I look back at myself and I am not the same person that I was. And I know that if you had not left, that process would not have happened.
Right.
And me, or it would have had to happen like even uglier.
Right. Yes.
So I feel like it would have happened, but it's like, how would it have happened? It might have been even more dicey.
Yes.
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 But what I learned was to not burn that bridge was so vital because we we are doing ministry together now. Our husbands work together now. Like, we do freedom together, sisterhood together. It would have been so hard if we just set that bridge on fire.
Yeah.
Yes, did we take a moment, take a few months, actually maybe even a year, and not really talk that much? Yes. Yes, did you delete me off your Facebook page?
Yes. And yes, did you just recently say you'd follow me because you never liked my pictures?
Exactly. So this was funny when we were preparing for this about oh my gosh, get over it. 4 months ago, I realized she was like, we talked about, we should bring up the whole Facebook thing because that's a real thing. Like, when you get in a fight with a friend, you delete them or you unfollow them and they never know. Deleting them, they actually know. So it's more of a confrontational move.
Yes.
So she deleted me and then she added me back on later. But I had chosen at that point, my heart was not ready. So I just unfollowed her secretly. And then, 4 months ago when we started talking about this, I just realized, oh my gosh, I still don't think I follow you. So I did. I follow you now. Don't worry. And I like your stuff.
She likes my stuff.
Yep. So yay.
Yeah.
But another thing that I really learned that my friend Darlene Parton sent to me during this time, and she didn't even know really I was going through this, but she just sent this little 5-minute video from this lady named Brene Brown, and it's about forgiveness. And if you Google Brene Brown, Brene Brown, and type in forgiveness, I hope this will pop up because it's so good. And we can share it on the Sisterhood page as well after this airs.
Yes.
But she talked about forgiveness in a way that I have never heard. And I watched this tiny little video and I just cried because she said forgiveness is not what we think it is. It's actually grieving. Forgiveness is grieving what once was as if it will never be again. And I don't want to cry about it right now because I just want to get through this. But forgiveness is grieving. And it really is. I had to look at my friendship with Angela and say that was awesome and it was fun and we had so many good years.
Yes.
But we still have more. It's not like it's over.
Right.
We do have to grieve what it was because that is never going to be again. And that is okay because you know what it is now? It is even more beautiful and more amazing. And now she's crying, so I'll give you another second. Another thing that I chose not to burn the bridge was for my children.
Yes.
My kids, like we've talked about, our kids love each other. They are like the Jonathan and David from the Bible, especially like Reagan and Andrew.
Are we like Saul and David?
I hope not. Gosh, I hope I'm David.
Hey, whatever.
Just kidding.
I know.
But they really have this special relationship and they've known each other since birth and they're bonded. And through all of this, I remember I was standing at the sink in the kitchen, kind of the first day I kind of realized, okay, she's leaving for real. And oh my gosh, I just burst into tears, crying like I've never cried before. And Reagan, he was little, like what? He must have been like 8. Mm-hmm. He came up to me and he's, Mommy, why are you crying? And I was like, my best friend is leaving. And I just cried and cried. And he looked at me and he goes, my best friend is leaving too. And it was so sad. But it was at that moment that I realized no matter what hurt that I'm experiencing, I do not need to let my kids see this. I do not need to taint their image of my best friend or their best friend's mommy or our relationship. Like, I'm going to do whatever it took. And even you guys came back twice a year.
Yeah.
At
Sometimes
least.
more.
Yeah. And so every time you guys came back, no matter where our relationship was, we got our kids together.
Yes.
We sucked it up and they played and they never, if they listen to this, they might know something.
Yeah.
But they never still to this day know that anything wrong happened. And I am so thankful to God that he gave me that moment of maturity.
Yeah.
Because I was immature in a lot of it, but that moment of maturity to just realize, like, when I have an issue with someone, it doesn't matter who it is, if it's my husband, whatever it is, and say I have an issue with my husband and I go talk to my friends about it, I am tainting their image of him. And they have to then look at him in a different light. Like my kids would have had to look at all of this in such a different light. And oftentimes, they don't get to see the reconciliation behind the scenes.
Right.
So then I'm bringing all this baggage onto them and not letting them participate in the process of what we have gone through because they can't.
Right.
Because it's in my heart.
Right.
And it's in your heart.
Right.
So I am very, very thankful to Jesus for walking us through that.
Well,
and
that you protecting your kids, that's part of what was happening even in the process of me shutting down.
Yeah.
I cry about everything. And honestly, during that season, I felt like I could not cry. And I wouldn't let myself because I did not want my kids to see this weak or be afraid. If they thought I was afraid to move, if they thought I was...
yeah, you had to be so strong for them.
It was ridiculous. And like you said, there were so many areas of immaturity going through that process, but I was thankful God allowed me to be mature for my kids.
When it counted, we pulled it together.
Yes. Where, oh my gosh, so many. So just you talking about the kids, and I think part of the sadness in the grieving process was not just about us, but it was about our kids. You know, we can't deny or not look at the last decade of life. We had dreams together. And so what's fun is now we can see, oh my gosh, the dreams coming alive. We dreamed about ministry together. We've dreamed about all of this. I don't think we saw that conflict in the middle of it.
No.
But like you said, the conflict could have been uglier if I stayed.
Yeah.
And sometimes God moves people. And again, I go back to that story about Paul and Barnabas. God moved them apart, but neither of them became less effective.
Right.
Neither of them did.
Yeah.
They stayed effective for the kingdom of God. And so now we're in a place where we're ministry minded together. And honestly, the entire time I was gone, Jessica turned 30 the year we moved. Her 30th birthday was in November, and we still hadn't reconciled fully.
No.
It was tough, and I so badly wanted to do fun things. I wanted to send her colored leaves and share with her all about the weather. Yes, I think they withered and died before they got to you.
And I was like, why is she sending me dead leaves?
But
jerk.
I know, right? But so thinking back on that time when we did start back to, okay, let's just get back to life. Let's put behind us what's behind us.
Well, I think what actually brought us together was ministry and God, and having Jesus at the center, which is really where it needed to be the entire time.
Yeah.
And so what came out of you leaving was, again, me being more open to relationships. So I have to make new friends.
Yes.
I started running with a girl named Angela, funny enough. And we started training. We did a half marathon together, and I was not a runner at all, but it was just something like that God gave me as a gift to, this is a way you're going to get to know a new friend, and you're going to learn how to make friends now, because you haven't had to do that for years and years. So so we did a half marathon, and then we signed up to a marathon together, and then guess what? She moved to Canada. And I had another friend who had been here probably for a decade named Jennifer, and she was kind of like you had left, and she was still working with the Church with Kids ministry at our campus, and then guess what? She moved to Texas. And it was everywhere I turned, God, I felt, was taking my people from me. But looking back, I'm so thankful, because what it opened up was me being open when Sarah called me with the idea to start a women's Facebook page. And from that was birth sisterhood. I was open to finally for once in my life leading something on my own, and I started a soap group.
Yes.
And I led that at your mom's house, and I talked a lot about soap at Flourish, and what an impact that has had on my life. Completely changed it. We launched Sisterhood, Propel, then Passion Conference, and then we just did Flourish. And through all of this, we were finally starting to talk again. And you were asking me, how did you do that? What's Propel like? I was encouraging you
do
guys.
Do a Propel chapter.
Do a Propel chapter. Do a freedom group at your church. And you just started taking stuff and running with it. And that became our commonality.
Yeah.
Was that ministry at the core and Jesus at the center. So maybe talk about how it was for you starting that there, and kind of what process you walked through.
Well, and like you said, God was the center, ministry. I think from the beginning we always knew that was the center of our friendship, ministry. And so getting into Tennessee, I'm watching her, so she shares her perspective of her friends moving.
She's watching me on Facebook, and I'm not watching her.
Jerk. No, I knew her friends were moving, and my heart broke. I thought every time she had told me someone was moving, I'm like, oh my gosh. I remember actually getting in the van with you and Angela. And do you remember you guys had me go run with you on River Road?
Yeah.
It was at Christmas time. And that's when Angela told you she was moving. And I just couldn't believe it. And then when I found out Jennifer moved, I was brokenhearted. So I was in Knoxville. I'm praying for Jessica. And I just love that God surrounded her with the women who were all right there already.
Totally.
Yes. I think of Sarah and Michelle and Jackie, all those sweet girls. I remember them. I remember their faces walking up into the Vieira campus the very first time, because I was there then.
Right. So my provision was right in front of my face.
Right in front of you. God he already had it right there available for you. And so that was so sweet to see that unfold. And so Jessica just kept encouraging me, because now I'm lonely. I'm in Knoxville. We moved twice while we were there, and it's kind of like Orlando. So if you move from one side of Orlando to another, you basically lose lose friendships. You don't stay close to people, just different. And so we also had changed churches 2 times while we were there, and we had somewhat got brought on to bivocational ministry with another pastor at a church up there. And you just encouraged me. I grabbed onto it because I know it's good.
Yeah.
I know it's good.
I think you saw some fruit that was happening here.
Absolutely. And it was in my heart. Like it was fruit. Like I could see my fingerprints even on parts of things that were going on at my home church in Florida.
Right.
Like I was involved in that. I want to do that here. These women don't have that. So we started a Propel chapter. A couple of us came to the Passion. Was it Passion?
Yeah.
Yeah. We came to the Passion conference.
You guys came to a freedom retreat.
We came to a freedom retreat. We just found out that it was funny because our pastor in Knoxville was being mentored by Pastor Kevin and Pastor Dan.
Yeah.
Like weird small world. And this is before we knew it.
Right.
And so we just started things like that. And then again, like she said, just our life started getting intertwined again in ministry and doing the things that I think God set us out to do way back when.
Totally.
For sure.
So it was a painful season for sure. And I hope that you guys could hear our heart through all the giggling and silliness that we're doing. But to know that it was really hard. And we didn't even get into like some of the nitty gritty, but because it's just not worth reliving.
No.
But we know that as iron sharpens iron, we are so much more smooth now.
Yeah.
And those rough edges, that God is still working, and He's using every relationship. If we let it, we have to participate and let it. But honestly, to have, as hard as it was, I would go through it again because my relationship with God is so much deeper, and I know yours is too. And to be able to be a part of starting something here that you could then just come back and be such a huge part of,
just
instantly.
slide back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm more involved in ministry with my husband than ever before. It really helped. And I know it helped your relationship with your husband
Absolutely.
too, because we had to cling to them in that time. And I love the sweetness that came from that. And honestly, death of one thing makes room for birth of another thing.
That's right.
So it's okay. The seed, the seed has to die when it goes in the ground in order to bring life and resurrection. Seasons, winter is death and spring is life. And I feel like there's so many metaphors that we could use to talk about the sweetness of going through something like that.
There's a quote by Heidi Baker. She said, "I believe the best years of my life will be found in the rest of my life. I believe God will write every chapter well, and it will be better than the one before. I choose to put the past behind me and press forward. I know what is ahead is better than what is behind."
Yeah.
And when I read that the first time, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Death has to happen for there to be new life.
Yeah.
And we know that. Even Jesus died on the cross to bring new life to all of us. And that is our friendship should reflect that.
Yeah.
And thinking of that, this is new. This is a new thought. See, maybe it's good we have to keep reliving this talk. So thinking about that, that should be the goal of all of our relationships.
Absolutely.
If we can't see Jesus's imprint on our relationships, maybe it's time to say, hey, it's been a while since we've prayed together. Hey, and I think I can look back and think we're surrounded by little kids. It was just survival some days. You had just had Adeline. Like there is so much.
I know.
So much life happening. And sometimes when we let life happen, even in our friendships, it's good to stop and say, hey, where are we in our friendship? We shouldn't be afraid of that. And I think sometimes maybe because we're not taking friendship seriously enough, or we're just like, oh, well, they're just friends. They're not a spouse. But friendships are crucial.
I think we don't look to a friendship for what it's supposed to be. I think we look at it to complete us and to do things it's not supposed to be. Like we are only supposed to look to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, to complete us. And I actually have this quote from this book called Free of Me. I would highly recommend this book by Sharon Hodde, Hodde Miller. And again, it's called Free of Me. And she says, "Our best friendships sharpen us and strengthen us. They call us toward our higher selves. They are God's provision in executing His mission on earth. But friendships make for a terrible mirror. Friendships are for us, but they are not about us. They exist primarily for the glory of God. They point us toward the perfect friendship we have with Him. And as long as our friendships remain grounded in that truth, even the broken ones will be swept up into the ark of redemption."
That's so good.
Not perfect.
That is so good.
I love that. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for fighting through. And
I should be kissing this girl's feet.
No,
the confrontational one is always the one that comes across, the bully and the mean one. And so to share some of our perspective, it's kind of funny to me to think neither of us knew that the other was feeling that way.
No, not at all.
We just saw what we could see.
Yeah.
And taking that and it's always been easier for me to see the soft side of you because you're softer. For me to be the rough, gruff kind of bully that I am, it's hard sometimes for people to see that I'm really not, that's not my heart. But that's what comes across sometimes, being that bully. And so, yes, I should kiss your feet for staying my friend through it all.
I think God is gracious. I know God is gracious.
Absolutely.
And he is, he just created a picture for us of what a friendship should look like. And
That's
I think
right.
that quote at the end just says it all, that our friendships are not for ourselves and they're not to be a mirror. They are to glorify God and for us to bring other women along with us. And I feel like I love that that's what we're doing now.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I'm just going to pray to close this out.
That sounds great.
Pray for some friendships out there. Lord Jesus, thank you so much for redemption and restoration, that you are the God of all comfort, that even when we're going through hard times in relationships, friendships, whatever it is, that you are always there, that you promise to never leave us or forsake us. And when we have no one else, we always have you, and help us to always remember that, even when times are great, to always remember that you are first and foremost in our lives. We pray over brokenness, broken relationships, and we thank you for restoring those things that need to be restored, God. And if things cannot be reconciled for whatever reason, Lord, we just thank you for anyone listening, for their hearts to be open to just forgive and to do their part, God. We thank you so much for your goodness and your graciousness, and for all these girls who are listening. And we thank you that the best is yet to come. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks for joining us for the Sisterhood podcast. You can check us out at eccc.us/sisterhood or on Instagram at East Coast Sisterhood.